When most of us think of the Sahara, we conjure up images of endless sand dunes as far as the eye can see in our mind's eye. And although I've been to this vast desert before, I've never spent days camping in the dune fields themselves. On this trip, I'm spending 4 days alone in this silent wilderness. There's certainly plenty of sand, but also wildlife, vast vistas, and an unexpected turn in the weather, which I didn't prepare for, making for a damp and soggy tail end to the story.
I'm Feargus, and this is the middle of nowhere. The Sahara Desert. And this is the kind of place that most people think about when they think of the Sahara Desert. I'm surrounded by sand dunes. I'm in southern Tunisia, just inside the edge of the Great Eastern Erg. And an erg is an inland area of sand. And as far as I remember, the Eastern Erg is the second largest sand sea in the Sahara Desert, in Africa in fact. It starts here, or finishes here at its extreme eastern extent, and continues for hundreds and hundreds, I think more than 1,000 kilometers west into Algeria and across a big chunk of that, and the dunes get bigger and bigger, and they are huge in the Algerian desert. This place though is more accessible. I've rented a car while I'm in Tunisia and driven down pretty much as far as you can with a 2-wheel drive car, and parked it about 5 kilometers from here. And as you saw, I had to come over some dunes over there to this depression surrounded by the bigger dunes, where this is a bit more green, there's a bit more plants. It's a nicer area to set up camp. I've only come about 5 kilometers from the car today because it's really hard work. I have kitted myself out for 4 to 5 days. We'll see how long my water lasts. So I'm carrying, or at least when I left the car, I was carrying almost 20 litres of water. So that's 20 kilos of water on its own. My rucksack isn't really designed to carry that much weight. So it's been quite uncomfortable, and I'm a bit tired from getting here and stuff. So I'll do more mileage on the other days as the bag gets lighter and I get through my water. Plus, I just wanted to have a chill out for the afternoon while it's nice and sunny. I slept next to the car last night, so I'd be ready first thing this morning to get going. And it got really quite cold, so I didn't sleep very well. So I might just have a little nap with my head in the shade behind the tent and just chill out for a bit before the evening. It is lovely. So quiet. I got about a half hour of chilling out in the sun, and then the clouds started to come over. But actually, that was quite a comfortable temperature after that for a while. And I have had mostly quite a blissful afternoon of just relaxing. It's not very often that I get to do that, and I can do that in a place like this if I have the comforts, the basic comforts which I have with me, much more easily than I could ever do it on a beach next to a resort where there's lots of people around and lots of noise and all of that sort of stuff. It's incredibly quiet here. Well, not at the moment because of my stove. Incidentally, this stove is a cheap and crappy one. It's bulky and it uses those ancient old cartridges, which you can hardly even get them in the UK anymore, which you used to use, or at least I used to use them in the 90s when I was camping as a teenager in Ireland. Searching around for ages, I managed to find this thing in a hardware store, which happened to sell things like barbecues and stuff, and these. So I bought it. It was only 20 quid. It'll do for the trip, and it's a hell of a lot easier than the alternative, which I was considering was simply to make a fire, which would have been quite a wholesome experience, but this is a lot quicker and easier. Ooh, look at that. That's nice. Hold on, can you see that? Yes, evidently it's not completely clouded over on the horizon. These beetles are very common in the Sahara. I've seen them in Morocco, in Egypt. I can't remember their name. They've only got a scientific name, but they feed entirely on plants. Particularly, they seem to be fond of little flowers that are growing out of the fronds of this stuff. Might have a little bit of moisture in it without being poisonous. And I suppose they must get their water from under the ground, because if you dig down just a little bit, you'll get to damp sand, or at least slightly more damp sand. Like that feels quite damp and it's beginning to stick together more. And the beetles must get that because they live in burrows. There are little burrows all over the place, and I've been seeing those since yesterday as well. Look, there's one. There's a bigger one. But they do eat really, really dry vegetable matter as well. I've seen their tracks all over the place. They are just everywhere. But since yesterday, these are the first ones I've seen, and there's loads of them around here. Let's see if something special about this bush. There's a lot of camel poo around, so maybe it is a particularly special place. This is a curious patch of dunes. Like everything that I've been through so far, it's got the scattered remnants of dead trees standing up out of the sand. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because of the spread of the desert. Deserts are getting bigger, partly down to climate change. And this and the other ones around here might just be the leftovers from a time when there wasn't so much sand covering and drowning out their roots. I think I'll stay here tonight, even though it's a bit eerie and melancholic. There's another one of those birdies. Keep seeing them. Guess it's looking for a good perch on that tree. White, fluffy clouds day today. The sun keeps coming and going. One of the big problems with camping and bringing along camera gear and sensitive equipment basically is how fine the desert sand is. It's much finer than beach sand, and it just flows almost like a liquid through your hands and then drifts off in the wind, which means that it very easily carries and blows on the breeze and gets stuck in everything. I can feel it crunching whenever I eat something, because inevitably a small amount of it ends up getting into my food. I can hear it grinding away when I move the legs in and out on my tripod, and no matter how hard I try, it somehow gets into the tent. I mean, I brush everything off and I bash it and I shake it and I do everything that I can to try and get rid of it before I get into the tent, but somehow some of it always gets in, and all I can really do is just brush it to the corner to try and keep it off my equipment. One thing which bothers me at this time of year, although I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's seasonal affective disorder, is the light levels in Scotland where I live. It's the one downside of living up in the north of Scotland, in my opinion. So you're not going to see me wearing shades very much, because I just want to take in as much light as I can, store it all up in my head mentally, while I wait for the spring and the summer to arrive properly when I go home. Sand dunes have to be one of the most photogenic things in nature. So beautiful. I keep walking past these mounds of sand with grass growing out of them, and every so often I see a lizard scurrying away, and I think I've just discovered what it is the lizards are actually eating, because I saw this, which is obviously made by an insect, and I had a closer look by breaking a piece off, and it's full of termites. Whee! There are the termites. Hey, little dudes. Clearly they get the smallest particles of dust and sand and use their saliva to cement it together. And that makes for a good, relatively solid nest. Solid enough for them anyway. I find termites cute. Especially these kinds of termites. Most termites don't make the giant mounds that are so conspicuous in a lot of parts of the world. Most of them stay in the dark all the time and just build their nests out of bits of wood or bits of plant. They just eat the bits of vegetation. They will come out at night from time to time in order to build, in order to fetch new bits of food, and they need very little water to survive. In terms of other wildlife around here, there is some, if you know where to look, and there is some which is more overt. Like I said, I've seen lizards. I even saw a snake scurrying away yesterday into one of the bushes, into a hole when I disturbed it, but it was too quick for me to get on camera. There are quite a few crows coming by from time to time, so clearly the crows are doing okay out of this place. And I haven't seen a live one, although I have in the past in other trips to the Sahara, but I've seen the tracks of fennec foxes, which are desert foxes that live in the Sahara. They're very cute things. They've got great big ears for listening to prey that they might be searching for, scurrying around like a rodent or whatever, or a lizard. Cool. I think that's a silver desert ant. They live in the Sahara and they're covered in these little white hairs which have a metallic kind of refraction index when you see them in the sun, which helps to reflect the heat of the day. Doesn't really need it at this time of year though, it's really not that warm. I love ants. Found a nest. They're digging. It's quite funny to watch. It's like out of a Looney Tunes cartoon, like the Roadrunner, where they're moving their legs so quickly that it's just bizarre. Getting the sand out of the entrance. There's several entrances. I can see one over there, one there, two over there actually. This is my least favorite of the camp spots so far. Evening number 3. I have crossed the dunes and now there's a break in the dunes. There's like a oval shaped clearing, for want of a better word. This is the furthest that I am going to get from the road. I've come about 15 kilometers
from the car. I am tired though. It's very cloudy, which is a blessing really for walking. Not so much for the light if you want to take pictures and stuff. It might clear up at night again. That tends to be the way. I hope that it's going to stay cloudy in order to prevent the temperatures from dropping too much. And then it clears up at some point and gets really freezing, which it has done every night so far. I'm a bit concerned about the clouds in that direction, which seem to be coming this way. Well, I don't know what to expect. The weather which seems to be coming in looks like rain, or at least possibly rain. It could just be overcast for the next few hours or even the whole night. I'm crossing my fingers that it doesn't start raining. If it does, my silly decision to leave the outer sheet behind will look quite ridiculous, especially when I'm making a video about it. But I have put everything which cannot get wet in my waterproof bag. I've got my survival blanket, and I will wrap myself and my sleeping bag and stuff up in that so that I don't get wet, even if the tent gets completely saturated. So let's see what happens. I mean, it was a situation where the bag was literally splitting at the seams because it was so full with all the water and stuff. And I was just looking at things and thinking, what can I possibly leave behind which might take up bulk? And that was one thing which I figured, well, I'm not going to need that. Chances of it raining are minuscule. Is that rain? That's rain. It's raining in the desert. How bad is it going to get, and how long is it going to last? Oh, this is going to be a fun night. I think it might be dying down. Famous last words. Yep, it's still raining all night. I'm sure there's a saying, expect the best, plan for the worst. Yes, that would be smart.
world beyond feels very far away when you're in a place like this with no clear landmarks. It's just dunes after dunes after dunes. I have to keep recalibrating where I'm going using my phone in order to check the map, and if that fails I have to use the compass and just go in the right direction, and I know I'll hit the road. Okay, just about halfway back to the car now, and I said to myself this morning that I would make a final decision when, and I am going to go all the way back to the car, so I've got to get there before dark. It's cold and windy and unpleasant, so I've had enough. I have finally emerged from the dunes. It's been a long day, and for the first time in 4 days, my bag is not inflicting terrible pain on my shoulders, because this bag just can't handle that kind of weight. It was so tightly packed that I can really see there's a big rip at one of the seams at the back now. I might be able to fix it when I go home, but I'll just have to handle with care for the rest of the time that I'm here. It looks like it might actually be clearing up. You can see a bit of blue sky there, but then it's looked like that about 10 times today, so I don't really trust it for a second. It's kind of weird not trusting the weather in that way in the Sahara. But it has been a very fascinating trip and really good for my head, as I said. All that remains to be said now is, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you know anybody who likes this sort of stuff, hit that share button and send it to them as a link. Check out some of my other videos. I got more than 50 videos up here now, and some of them are of adventures in exotic locales like this. So keep an eye out and subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel if you want to get regular updates on stuff like this. I will be back with another video of something else in a couple more weeks, or maybe a little bit less. Until then, have a lovely couple of weeks, everyone, and be safe.